Going in depth here on Fox Carolina News on the government shutdown and the race for governor in 2026. We're joined now by Congresswoman Nancy Mace. So, Ms. Mace, thank you so much for taking some time with us. Congresswoman, you were able to be here because of the government shutdown. You're also running for governor. But let's start with the shutdown here. Any end in sight? When will it end going into week 3 now?
Yeah, we're in a stalemate right now, and Democrats have dug a hole they can't climb their way out of. The only way they want to reopen the government is by spending $1.5 trillion, $200 billion of it on health care for illegal aliens. They want $2.3 million for locusts in Africa. We're talking about insects in Africa. They want, several $1 million for feminine democracy in Honduras. I don't understand what any of that means. I just know it's not America first, and we're not reopening the government to put other nations in front of ours.
Well, what would be your message to those, especially here in the upstate, right at our own airport at GSP? They're starting a food drive for the federal workers, and we know that SNAP benefits could expire come November. We're getting closer to November as we speak.
Well, Democrats have put illegal aliens ahead of American citizens, ahead of our troops. I've elected not to get paid. If our troops aren't getting paid, no member of Congress should get paid. If it's going to be painful for our federal employees, it needs to be painful for members of Congress too. And maybe that will help motivate members of Congress on the left. But so far, they've dug their heels in. I honestly don't know how they get out of it. I think this will be the longest government shutdown in American history, all because they hate Donald Trump.
But still, your message to those, it's a food drive for federal workers at the airport. What you have the ability to speak to them now. What would you tell them?
Well, that, Republicans were working hard. We haven't caused this. This is caused by the left because they are unwilling to put the American people first. They're unwilling to put our military first. And what I would say to the folks who are doing the food drive is say thank you. Because there are going to be women and kids and families that are going to go hungry the longer that this continues. So the way that the community can rally, the way that the community can come out and come together to help those in need is a tremendous opportunity and experience for those who are most in need. And so thank you for doing that. And it's a sad day when we have to do that. It shouldn't be that way. But that's where we are right now because of the lunacy of the left.
Switching gears to your race for governor now. Recently on social media, you've been calling out a drag show in the Low Country.
Yeah.
You're saying that as governor, those will not take place.
We're going to ban drag shows for kids.
But you've been at odds with the LGBTQ community for quite a while now. But in 2021, you were quoted saying, "I strongly support LGBTQ rights and equality."
Well,
what
of
changed?
Course. Well, no, nothing has changed. I mean, I have the same positions as Donald Trump, but an adult has the First Amendment right to wear whatever they want. I'm not banning skirts or dresses or that kind of thing. I do want to ban the lifestyle. I do want to ban the indoctrination and grooming of our children. I've always been that way. I got gender-affirming care banned in South Carolina in 2022. I didn't know what it was, and I was running against a pediatrician for Congress who was pro-gender affirming care. When I found out what that was, that meant castrating kids. And then I learned it was being done at a hospital in South Carolina. I got it banned because I think there's a point where we as Republicans, we respect the Constitution. We respect individual rights. But there comes a time where somebody else's rights violate the rights of others. So if you're mentally ill, you can wear whatever you want. I don't care. But you're not going to use our bathroom. You're not going to use our locker room. You're not going to use the shower next to a 12-year-old girl. So there's a big difference between constitutional rights and then what is right morally, ethically, legally, etc.
Also, in your run for governor, you said that you have been calling yourself Trump in high heels.
Oh, we are wearing them today.
But after January 6th, you said his entire legacy was wiped out. What changed with your relationship with President Trump?
I have a great relationship with the president, and in fact, I mean, we talk with some frequency, and we have a great relationship. We almost always have. I've not ever abandoned his policies, but you're being given the talking points of my opponents. What they won't tell you, I mean, they're feeding you fake news, but what they won't tell you is
advertisements and commercials.
Well, yeah, which are false. I mean, I'm the only candidate running for governor who was with Donald Trump in 2015. I actually worked for him when he ran for president the first time, when very few people were with him. I was one of his very first hires for his political campaign for president. I then worked in 7 different states to get him elected, from the East Coast to the West Coast. I worked for him for about a year, and no one else who's running for governor can say that they were an OG or that they were an original. I voted for him in every election. I worked for the man. I just spoke to him a week ago. So I'm the only candidate for governor who has that kind of personal relationship with the President of the United States. He has supported me in my elections, and you know, I support his policies. I am Trump in high heels. I will govern the way that Trump governs as president. I will govern at South Carolina. He's the law and order president. I'm going to be the law and order governor. But I have to tell you, you know, my opponents, one of them didn't support him last year. For others, I was in before they were, but I've been with him since 2015, and that's never changed.
We'll get to some policies. You've called for judicial reform here quite repeatedly. What's the specific plan you want to see in place? South Carolina, one of very few states where the legislature selects the judges. What do you want to see done?
We're one of only 2 states in the country that actually have lawyer legislators who elect our judges. I'm the first candidate for governor that came out with any sort of substantive policy on any issue, whether it's judicial reform, whether it's crime, whether it's illegal aliens, whether it's cost of living, inflation, taxes, education, energy policy, healthcare. I'm the only candidate who's put out any sort of policies. My opponents now are copying. I'm going to get there,
okay.
but all my other opponents have copied and pasted my policies. So from that standpoint, we're running the tables around everyone else from a policy standpoint. Remember, what was the policy question?
Judicial reform. What exactly do you want to see in place?
On judicial reform, on my policies that I've rolled out for that, obviously we don't want to have lawyer legislators electing judges. There are some states that allow the governor to appoint their judges entirely. Missouri is a state that has a hybrid program where the governor appoints the judges and then the people re-elect them every 4 years. There's a hybrid way to do it. The governor of South Carolina has very little power. They get very few appointments, and so one way we can give the governor power is by allowing them to at least nominate or select judges, and they can be re-elected by the general public, by the voting population. I think that's a good plan. I've unveiled that. But one of the other things that we have to expose is what they're actually doing. And so what happens is it's not just the judges that are being elected by the legislature, but you then have lawyers who are funding the campaigns of the solicitors that they have cases in front of. And so what happens is with the Attorney General, with the Assistant Attorney Generals, with the solicitors and the assistant solicitors, is everybody's getting paid. The lawyers get paid for a, quote, plea deal. Murderers, rapists, and pedophiles walk free. And then the solicitors and the Attorney Generals, they get campaign donations from attorneys that they have cases before. So in my own investigation that I was very public with in February of this year, one of the attorneys for 1 or 2 of the predators that I turned into law enforcement headlined the solicitor who's supposed to prosecute these people when that happens, headlined the fundraiser for her. So how does that work? Everyone's getting paid and nobody goes to jail. And that's how broken the system is in South Carolina.
I think lastly here, what's the top priority if elected governor? What is #1 on that to-do list?
Well, regardless of the issue, no one will work harder than I will. I'm the only candidate for governor who has a performance that is results driven, whether we're talking about appropriations, authorizations, resources, grants, bills. I'm ranked 5th as the most prolific bill writer in Congress out of 435 members. There's no one on the ballot in the governor's race who's been more effective at delivering results for the people they serve than I have. So my promise is to continue to work hard, as I always have, not just for the Low Country, but for South Carolina as a whole, statewide. We will do that better than anyone.
All right, Congresswoman, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, Congresswoman Mace is one of 5 Republicans in that race for governor. Fellow Congressman Ralph Norman is also running. So are current Attorney General Alan Wilson and Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett. Upstate Senator Josh Kimbrell is also in the race.